Welcome once again to another interview. With us we have here Kevin from Deadalic Entertainment. How are you, Kevin?
I'm fine, thank you.
So tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Kevin Menz. I'm a lead game designer and writer for Deadalic Entertainment in Hamburg. I worked mainly on A New Beginning, which was just released on Steam after it was released, I think, 2 years ago in Germany. Mostly I do a lot of writing for Daedalic games. I helped writing Deponia. I did some writing on Chains of Zatinath. Currently I'm working on a project which I'm not allowed to talk to right now. And there I'm also the lead game designer and writer, so I did the story and the game design and everything there. Yeah.
What is the job of the creative lead designer?
It's, if you compare it to like a movie, like film, it's like the director. You know, the creative lead is the person who is in charge of the whole vision of the project. To tell the other people in the team what to do and work on the whole. You give well, it's in the word of director or lead that you're directing things into a certain direction. In my case, it's also that I'm the person who writes most of the dialogue in the story.
What is the story with Deadalic Entertainment?
So Deadalic has been founded 2000 and I always mix that up, 2006 or 2007. It's been a while. It's been around for a while here in Germany, and we are in Hamburg. And the main focus of Deadalic is on games with a very strong story, with strong narratives. Most of the games we are developing are point-and-click adventure games, because those games are a lot of people in the company grew up with those games and really loved those games, and then they were gone for a while. There was this between, I think, 1997 and...
The rise of the consoles.
Yeah, the rise of the consoles and the rise of 3D, first-person shooters, action games in general, or strategy games. Suddenly those other games made a lot more money than adventure games, and a lot of publishers didn't want to publish adventure games anymore because they thought they wouldn't sell as good as... Command and Conquer or something.
So do you feel that Deadalic Entertainment is a publisher with a studio or a studio with a publisher?
I'd say it's more a studio with a publisher. We still, a lot of the publishing, the regular retail publishing, we have co-publishers who help us finance the game. So we don't really publish the games by ourselves. It changes now that we can use Steam, so we don't have like... somebody in between us making the game and selling the game, so we have more control over that right now. Yeah, but we still need co-publishers to finance our games currently.
Is your games technically considered an indie game?
Yeah, recently I think on Steam or in reviews for A New Beginning, it's always considered to be an indie game. So I have to admit I was a bit surprised. I never considered it that much an indie game, but in fact, maybe it is. We don't have a really big company, big team, I mean.
How big is your team?
For A New Beginning? It changed. It's been a while.
Around 30, around 100?
Yeah. Well, all in all, a lot of people worked on the game, but not always at the same time. This was in development for a very long time. And but maybe at one time there were up to 20 people or something working on it.
So can you describe the New Beginning?
The New Beginning is also a traditional point-and-click adventure game. It takes part in the early 1980s. It's about global warming and climate changes and everything. It's that always when I tell people that, they're like, "Oh, this sounds like a very preachy game, like somebody's trying me to educate me in some political issues." In a way, the game, because it is about global warming, it does that, but I really took a lot of care when working on the game to make it not preachy, but more entertaining. So that you have those characters you can really feel with, and it's an exciting story with good puzzles, and at the same time it has this relevance, like, because it's about a very important topic. but you don't really have to agree with everything that the game says about that to enjoy it. And the story of the game is there is this old scientist called Bent Svensson. He's a Norwegian who, for all his life, he tried to change, to make a difference in global warming and everything, and worked on some new technologies for alternative energy resources. But he failed. His family went downhill. His wife died. His son hates him, and all because he invested more into changing the world than he invested into his own personal life. And the story begins that a woman appears at his retirement home, the house where he retired, and she says she's from the future. Her name is Faye. And way back in the future, far, far, far away in the future, the whole world is about to collapse and everyone is going to die because of the climate change. And he's the only one who can stop it. And he doesn't want to believe her. He is just like, no, I don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. I invested all my life into changing something. Now I cannot do this anymore. And I don't believe you that you're from the future. And but she starts to tell him what happened, that she came back into the past, and most of the game, the first half of the game is actually playing her in those flash
forward things.
Yeah. She and you experience how she went to the wrong time at first, into 2050, and everything was destroyed already. So that's a very post-apocalyptic scenario you're playing there. And then how she got back into the 1980s. And the second half of the game is after she convinced Bent and those two try to save the world and to prevent a major catastrophe that is about to happen.
So whenever there is a story with time travel, there is always different versions of it. What is your version of time travel?
Well, basically, I tried to keep most of those time travel logic things out of the story because that starts to take a lot of attention, to draw a lot of attention to that, and you cannot really explain it properly that everyone is satisfied. Just recently, I saw a movie in the cinema. It was called Looper. I don't know if you heard about that one. Yeah, I really loved the movie, but when you started to think about the time travel aspect in the game, nothing made sense anymore. But the story was good, and so I tried to keep away from those things. I didn't try to explain anything. There are a few moments where actually it becomes part of the story, but not that big as it could have been. Because for me, it was more important to stay with the characters, to have like believable characters, and a good story, and and focus on the theme of global warming.
Okay, so what was the biggest challenge when creating New Beginning?
Basically, it was. I have to say, I wasn't really on the game from the very beginning. The first version was done when I wasn't at Daedalic, before I went to Daedalic. Mm-hmm. And when I started working on the project, some of the work was already done, a lot of the work, and the parts of the story were already put into place, but it was like a huge jigsaw puzzle where I have all those fragments and some things didn't work out and everything. I went onto the project and I tried to get everything together that it would make sense because a lot of parts didn't make that much sense. A lot of things worked, but some were a bit too complicated or a bit strange. And so the two challenges were one, to take all those puzzle pieces and put them together and make it a whole, and the other part was to, as I said, to make sure that the game was not an overly educational game, but a more entertaining game. And that was something that could easily go very wrong if you have people in your story trying to prevent global warming, that a lot of people playing this game would get, wouldn't think that this was very fun. You know, that it was so serious. The whole game had a notion of being so serious that a lot of people didn't expect it to be fun. And I wanted this game to be very exciting, very interesting, with a lot of plot twists. So I added a lot of plot twists in the second half of the game, and try to keep this educational, political part light, so that it doesn't get too heavy. Yeah.